All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're out here this morning, or this afternoon. We're going to do some fitting of this new J.C. Martin saddle I got in from Rick to do some evaluations on. And we already did this once today, but our microphones were messed up this morning, so we have to come back out and we're going to do them again this afternoon. Now, I've got this saddle set up and rigged up kind of the way I would want to see it and the way I'm going to ride it to do the riding evaluations throughout the year on it. The one thing I changed out this Latigo, because it came with a natural leather Latigo and I prefer red Latigo, so I set it up with that. I have a brand new mohair cinch on it with a 26-inch length. Rick's flank cinches on it, which I've already said that I would narrow that up and make it just a straight flank cinch rather than the big old roper cinch. And I put my own stirrups on it, which I think kind of streamlines this saddle, makes it look a little better from just a visual perspective. And these are a little bit narrower and a little bit more handy to use, and that's what I ride with all the time. So what we're going to start doing with these saddles to fit them out here and see how they fit on these different horses. I've got my 4 horses in here. We're going to start here with Wheeler. Wheeler is a 22-year-old gelding, quarter horse. Back when he was younger, he had a nice back, more like Stormy's back. Now he's starting to get a little bit U-backed, and his withers and shoulders are starting to hollow out a little bit, and he's kind of hard to fit a saddle to sometimes because of him losing all of his muscle tone down through his back and kind of narrowing out. With the saddles that we currently have, and Vic's saddle, I have to use an 1.5 inch pad on, or an 1 1/8 pad to get her current saddle to fit. Now this morning when we did these saddles, this saddle's got a little bit higher gullet on it than Vic's current saddle does, which is also a Martin, and that's part of what he changed on this new model. But in order to get your saddle to fit, you want to first set it up there without a pad at all and see what kind of clearance you have, see how it sits in that pocket, whether it's stable, whether it rocks back and forth, forward to back and side to side. And this saddle sits on him really nice, just the way it is. The only issue is the gullet clearance. Now with her old saddle, it would be mashed right down there and it wouldn't fit hardly at all. This one, I've got about 1/4 inch of gullet area here clearance, which is not enough obviously to ride with. But with this saddle and the way it's set up on here and the way the bars are set, I can set a 1-inch pad up here and get this saddle to fit him pretty well. So we'll bring down this 1-inch pad. This is a brand new pad from Smith Brothers, who's no longer in business, but you can get these saddle pads at a lot of different places. It's just a 1-inch wool saddle pad. It's 32 inches long, and you've got plenty of clearance, plenty of length on the pad with a 32-inch pad. I got about 3/4 up in front here and about 1.5 inches back here, so you can adjust that even more back and forth to set it up there where you want. And again, with the 1-inch pad, it sits down in the pocket behind the shoulder blade, and I can run the whole width of my hand up underneath here now. So that sits good. From a rigging perspective, the way this saddle is rigged with the flat plate rigging, you set that up there just a little bit on the edge of that pocket in the shoulder blade. The cinch sits about a hand width back on him from where it would sit behind his elbow, which is where I want it to sit. We had nice sunny weather when we started this morning, and our microphones were hosed up, so we had to come out and redo them all. And now it's starting to cloud up and threatening rain, so we're going to have to speed up here a little bit probably. And there you go. Now she's rigged up and sitting there with the cinches snug. Let's see if I can push Wheeler around here a little bit and get him to get over there. All right, Stormy, you move over. Move over. See if I can get him pushed around here a little bit. And you can see where those riggings sits. You got about a hand width back here from your cinch. Flank cinch sits nice on his belly. Everything's stable. We're getting some thunder now. Everything's stable on him. That's a good fitting saddle for his back. Okay. Now let's move on over here to Stormy. And we'll take a look at how it fits her. Stormy's she's 14 years old. I use her in a lot of my clinics. I've ridden her with a lot of saddles, a lot of different kinds of saddles, and she's got pretty much a standard quarter horse back. She's a registered quarter horse. She's 14. She doesn't have a real deep pocket or high withers. She's just got a pretty normal set of withers for a fat 14-year-old quarter horse mare. Okay, we'll pull this saddle down here, and I'll set this up on her back. Hopefully not trying to get it muddy because it's going to be for sale here in the next few days. Now we set this saddle up on Stormy's back there on the pocket where you need it. I've got good clearance. Not yet, not enough rain to matter yet. Got good clearance on her. It sits real good in the saddle line. Everything looks pretty good. It's stable from front to back, side to side. It rolls just a touch. You'd have to snug it up on her with a 1-inch pad. It's going to sit real nice on her. Now we're running through this a little bit quick here because now we're getting into a rainstorm, and I don't know when we're going to have time to do it again. So, but with a 1-inch pad, that sits real nice on her. I could ride her just like that with no problem at all. Okay, the rigging sits pretty nice right where I'd want it. It's stable on her back, and we're good. Now with Pag's my ankle techie. He's real narrow-sided, slab-sided. He's got a back like a hacksaw. And normally with him, I got to ride him with a thick 1 1/8 inch pad, just like I have to with Wheeler and with Steel most of the time. So we're going to toss this up on him. But because Rick's new saddle has got a little bit higher gullet on it, this saddle still has clearance even sitting straight down in his back, whereas a lot of my saddles that I have, I can't sit it on his back without it crunching right down on his withers. With this one, I got, maybe 3/4 to an inch of clearance there on that gullet. So you can ride this saddle with an Arab, you can ride it with an ankle techie, you can ride it with quarter horses or high withered horses pretty easily by just keeping an eye on where the pad is and adjusting your pad thickness back and forth. Okay, this again is the 1-inch pad on Pag, and I set that up there on Pag. And we'll cinch it up on Pag here just so we can get her snug, and you can see how it fits on a higher withered, narrow-bodied horse. We'll get her snugged down here to where it sits good on him. You can see that sits really well on him. I've got a good hand's worth of clearance underneath his withers there with just a 1-inch pad. Sits stable, doesn't rock back and forth, front to back, doesn't rock back and forth this way. I got a hand's worth of clearance here on that cinch. I could ride him just like that with that saddle with no problems whatsoever. Whereas normally I'd have to put a pretty good sized thick pad on him to clear his withers. So we might make this before it starts raining. We're going to move on over here to Steel. Steel is also 10, 12 years old. He's a quarter horse too. He's got a little bit wider belly on him than Pag does. A little bit wider rib cage. His withers are pretty high though. And he has a little bit of a dip to his back too, but not as bad as Wheeler does. But his withers are kind of narrow and high, more so than what Stormy's are. So we'll get this off a Pag here. Now just setting the saddle up on Steel. It's a lot like Wheeler, but he's narrower in the withers than Wheeler is even. So this kind of sits down on him. It rides in the pocket good, but it sits down and it's right on the top of his withers right there. So you're going to have to be careful with a horse like this to make sure you get the right pad in order to ride comfortably. So we're going to get him padded up here with the same 1-inch pad. With just a 1-inch pad, again, it's just like Pag. I got a whole hand there underneath that. It sits back behind his shoulder, right on the edge of his shoulder, down in that pocket where it's supposed to be. I know I can't let it get wet. Like I said, this saddle's back up for sale. So we're going to have to cut it off here because we're getting some rain. And I can't let it get soaking wet and stained. So, but we get him set up there. And we've rode this saddle this afternoon, me and Vic both on Wheeler, and it sits nice. I like riding this saddle, and I think you'd be real pleased with it. So, and we'll get some more riding videos as soon as we get some weather again. Y'all have a good one.